Welcome to Fast Tracking the Day of God. This podcast is for those eager to seriously engage with God's invitation to collaborate with Him. This collaboration isn't merely an option, it's a foundational partnership, utterly integral to our restoration and the healing of a broken world. Through this collaboration, we will also fulfill the final prophecy, sharing the eternal gospel with the world, a message largely unknown to most people today. For starters, we need to clarify some key terms that the Hebrew Bible uses to reflect the faithfulness and certainty that God offers. The Hebrew Bible uses some key terms for God's commitment. Debar, often translated as promise. This word expresses what God says. Crucially, when it comes from God, Debar inherently carries the weight of action and the certainty of fulfillment. A divine declaration to protect, save, or bless is a guaranteed outcome. Brit, covenant, also translated as promise. A brit is a solemn and binding agreement between God and His people. It acts as the formal relational framework that transforms God's statements, debar, into sacred, rooted commitments. Tikva, hope. This term significantly enhances the meaning of divine certainty. Tikva goes beyond simple hope, conveying ideas of expectation, connection, and binding, a confident looking forward rooted in a secure link. Resilience and perseverance, a source of strength that enables endurance. Tangible certainty, a stability you can rely on, especially during times of uncertainty. Therefore, it is understood why those who place their hope, tikva, in what God says, debar, sealed by Brit, experience a peace that surpasses all human understanding. Genesis 1 and 2 describes how God spoke this world to existence, culminating in the creation of humanity, a new race made in His own image. Despite humanity's unfortunate betrayal, as narrated in Genesis 3, God immediately offered Adam and Eve a plan for rescue from their self-inflicted plight. He also explained to them the consequences of their lack of trust, such as the curse brought upon the ground by their actions. Centuries later, God declared, the Bible uses the word debar, to Abraham that he would inherit the land of Canaan, where he was only a temporary resident at the time. While neither Abraham, Isaac, nor Jacob physically possessed the promised land, their trust in God allowed them to inherit something of far greater value, the knowledge of their Creator. We too are heirs of God's declarations. In a sense, we resembled the late starting workers in Jesus' parable found in Matthew 20. Therefore, we should not be lazy or sluggish, but fully committed to our task. Just as the children of Israel were called to be faithful and display the character of God so that other nations would come to know Him, we are similarly tasked with displaying the character of God to everyone around us and make sure the whole world learns about God as the only source of truth, life, and happiness.
The biblical narrative consistently emphasizes the transient nature of human existence, evident in the lives of figures like Abraham, Moses, and David, who viewed themselves as sojourners. This basic truth directs believers to look beyond temporary material possessions toward an eternal certainty, anticipating a future permanent home free from evil and death. The New Testament reinforces this idea, characterizing Christians as strangers and exiles who seek a better heavenly country. Internalizing this reality, that this world is not our final home, is crucial for maintaining a full awareness of our high calling, to be the light of the world. Our mission is to reflect God's character, and ensure everyone understands his indestructible kindness. Failing to recognize and fulfill this high calling is presented as an impediment, delaying Christ's return. The safeguard against giving in to the desires of our old nature, selfishness and rebellion, is actively joining Jesus' team and working in his vineyard. This commitment is the pathway to receiving his Spirit and abiding in him. Some of Israel's tribes started to lose motivation and delayed the occupation of their assigned territories. Israel was expected to show a keen interest in God's plan, yet their response lacked enthusiasm and was merely lukewarm. They should have, at the very least, responded wholeheartedly by moving forward and occupying the land. The challenging nature of the settlement in Canaan reflects the dynamics of our salvation. Like Israel, we cannot earn salvation. Salvation is a gift, just as the land was God's gift to the Israelites, rooted in their covenant with him, not in any merit of their own. To enjoy God's gift of the land, the Israelites had to accept all the responsibilities of living there. Much like our sanctification requires love-driven cooperation to the core principles of God's kingdom. Because we are destined to inherit God's unshakable kingdom, Hebrews 12:28 instructs us to respond to his grace through loving, God-pleasing service. This commitment is echoed in Philippians 2:12, which calls us to continue diligently and seriously working out our salvation, a process that requires lives of kindness empowered by the Holy Spirit.
The Jubilee, Leviticus 25, was a cyclical law mandating liberation, debt cancellation, and land return to ensure economic equality. At the same time, through the sabbatical years, it reminded the people of Israel that God was the owner, not only of all land, but of the whole earth. Jesus spiritualized this, proclaiming the acceptable year, Luke 4, fulfilling the law's restorative purpose. The Great Commission, Matthew 28, universalized this, shifting the focus from physical land to the spiritual inheritance of all nations. Immersing in God's reality, baptism, cancels the claims of our captor, and discipleship releases bondage. The core objective of the gospel is to dismantle the barriers that separate people, such as the distinctions between rich and poor, employer and employee, or privileged and underprivileged. By acknowledging our universal and total dependence on God's grace, the gospel places everyone on an equal footing. Israel's occupation of the land was conditional upon fulfilling their part of the covenant, Brit, a fact reiterated by Moses and recorded multiple times in the Pentateuch. Unfortunately, Israel repeatedly broke the covenant. Consequently, after numerous transgressions, they lost possession of the land and were taken captives and exiled to Assyria and to Babylon. Following 70 years of Babylonian exile, God brought them back to their land to prepare for the arrival of Jesus, the Son of David. In Jesus, all the promises made to ancient Israel find their ultimate fulfillment.
Jesus redefined the inheritance, expanding the focus from a limited Middle Eastern territory to the whole earth, Matthew 5 verse 5, and the kingdom, Matthew 25 verse 34. This global territory is the new scope, a kingdom that we are called to help expand. Just as the Israelites had to conquer the land, we are now called to allow the Spirit to fill us so that we may take the gospel to every corner of our planet. Matthew 28, verse 20. The mission of focus changes from come and see, nations coming to Israel's land, to go and tell. Our ultimate destination is the New Jerusalem, the promised land we will reach when the Lord returns. There we will find Jesus' abundant life, forever safe from the enemy's attacks, and our joy will be unending, uninterrupted by pain or suffering. We must heed this warning. We cannot afford to repeat Israel's mistakes by turning inward and neglecting God's mission. We exist to shine and reflect God's indestructible kindness to the world. This podcast is produced with a vital purpose: to shake us out of our dangerous lukewarmness and spiritual exhaustion. In these series, we have been sharing this highly efficient and affordable medium to reach the masses, but we need your support to expand our efforts to many more cities. You can help by either joining us or supporting our work financially. Send us an email to indestructiblekindness@gmail.com for more information. Praying for the Holy Spirit is necessary, but unless we actively participate in His mission, we will hinder God's complete restoration in our lives. The decision rests with you. Choose wisely.